Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of Ausdauer Financial. We cover financial news in the industry, tips and suggestions for personal finance, tips and suggestions for business finance, and all topics finance, because numbers are lots of fun. Awesome. Okay. This week, I decided to take a break from my series of tips and strategies for personal finance, how to leverage money, how to use money to make you money, things of that nature. And there's been a lot in the news and in YouTube channels and all over the place in mainstream media about the HEROES Act and the next stimulus check. So let's go ahead and break down what's actually going on and debunk some of the rumors. First and foremost, the most important detail to get clear about the stimulus packages is that both the House of Representatives passed the HEROES Act, $3 trillion back in May of 2020 by the vast majority of Democratic votes, passed the bill because they have control of the House, was sent off to the Senate and never voted on, never discussed by the Senate, which is GOP dominated, but it's by a small margin. Having said that, there has been discussions about a new stimulus check. The reality of the matter is that until a legislative bill passes both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then on top of that gets passed by the President of the United States, then until that happens, it does not become law, and until it becomes actual law, it does not exist. There are thousands of bills trying to be pushed through Congress that you never hear about and never see the light of day. They have to get voted on and they have to get passed, or they just do not exist. Case in point, the HEROES Act and now the new HEALS Act. I will go ahead and break down what the HEALS Act is all about so you have an understanding about what it contains. However, keep this in mind. Neither the HEALS nor the HEROES actually exist until they get signed into law. Until that happens, nothing happens, okay? Now that I've made that perfectly clear, let's go ahead and get into this, okay? The Senate took the HEROES Act and said, this is bloated with too much pork that is going to financially destroy our country. And yes, we have a massive multi-trillion-dollar deficit. Why do you want to tack on $3 trillion more months after you just signed $3 trillion into debt? You have to pay the piper at some point. So the Senate took a fine-tooth comb through the HEROES Act and developed a stripped-down version of it to address specific needs related to the pandemic. And the original HEROES Act was $3 trillion. The new HEALS Act, being sponsored by the GOP Senate, is $1 trillion. What are some of the things this provides? Not everything is listed here. This bill is massive. They all are. Here are some of the key highlights, okay? This provides $105 billion towards school funding. This is referenced because, fundamentally, we don't know if the schools are even going to open in this fall. There's a lot of debate and contention about whether or not it's safe to do so. I have heard rumors that allegedly children are not passing this on to other children. I am not a medical expert. I do not know the validity of that. I do not have sources to back this up. Take that with a grain of salt. I do not know the reality behind that. I do know, however, that they are trying to fund money into the education system to come up with some means of providing education when the school year begins. And as somebody who is a massive advocate of education, if you can do it safely, the children need it. Heck, adults need it. So, I don't know what the details are in the school expenditures and what their plans are. That's not my realm. From the financial standpoint, they're allocating $105 billion towards that. They're also going to do $1,200 checks again. Okay? The specifics as to whether or not that's per individual versus double for married filing jointly and the $500 per child has not been mentioned in the proposed bill. That's still being formulated and discussed and debated. The Senate, Democrats and Republicans are so far apart on this bill that right now, whether it's in there or not, it would not pass. There's not enough support for it. So therefore, whether it has those extra elements like the CARES Act did, is more or less irrelevant because it doesn't even exist yet and they haven't finalized the actual terms. However, there is your check. There is your second round of stimulus checks. The unemployment rate has been slowly dropping. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I do know that with the states going green, people have been going back to work. Plus, all those people who are riding those $600 bumps in their unemployment checks, those ended this week. They are now back to their normal levels. And they're trying to pass a stopgap to prevent that. But nobody can agree on anything, which means the people on unemployment, that expiration date, still into effect. You lost that extra $600. Funds are exhausted. Timeline expired. That's the deal. That's the game, my friends. So, they're still in discussion with the HEALS Act. Instead of giving the $600 extension like the HEALS Act would have done, the HEALS Act wants to give an extra $200 buffer to your unemployment benefits because they recognize that people are hurting, they're trying to find work, and a lot of companies are trying to figure out what they're going to do to continue to operate and survive despite the fact that their states have gone green, because there are still significant safety risks until a vaccine has been developed and proven and is effective. It took 3 years plus for the Spanish flu vaccine to get developed and proven. I mean, it takes time. And granted, Pfizer was awarded what was it? I believe it was $1 billion. It could have been $3 billion. A massive, massive government contract to produce 100 million vaccination doses for the country. Should their vaccine, which has cleared pre-trials, is proven to be effective. When we're talking even let's just say on a conservative level here, it's a $1 trillion contract, okay? When the pandemic hit, every single medicine manufacturer, scientific researcher was unquestionably going to throw huge amount of resources at being the first company to develop that vaccine. Not just for the public relations boom, which fundamentally, if you get that award, that is massive for your company, for public relations, for future promotions of your industry, and for your company. Other element to it is you get massive, massive money from people flocking to you, not just in the United States, but around the world, to get their hands on that and to kill this pandemic, to get everybody safe and sound once again. And everybody in the industry knew this, and everybody threw massive amounts of money and resource at this. I don't think there is a company involved in research and development of drugs for vaccinations who didn't put resources toward this. Congratulations, Pfizer, on being the first one to come up with something that looks like it could be substantial. I don't know the medical science behind it. I do know that the government has already committed to saying that if you can prove that this works and it's effective and it's going to help us eradicate the coronavirus virus, boom. Money is the easy part. Let's save the world. You know what I mean? Okay? So there's that element of it. Getting back to the HEALS Act here. They're also putting in, speaking of the COVID, $16 billion allocated towards COVID testing and contact tracing to help organizations across the country to get a grasp and find out who has the infection, how far it is, and get this under control. Florida has had explosions of the virus, and I've been told by people who live in Florida that's largely due to the culture down there, where it's very close-knit, very handsy, very very loving in the physical touch element, and therefore adherence to social distancing guidelines were largely not being followed. And as you can see from the footage of people going to the beaches and things of that nature in the news, you can see they were playing fast and loose with the rules, and hence the explosion. Given that, they definitely want to commit a considerable amount of resources, i.e. between $20 billion in vaccine development and $16 billion in testing and contract tracing. You're looking at a $36 billion investment via the HEALS Act towards control of this situation here. So let me know what your thoughts on the HEALS Act, HEROES Act, government stimulus, the pandemic, schools coming back, the unemployment benefits, the whole 9 yards. I want to hear what you think about what I think and about what's going on in the news. I realize you are bombarded with, from every news story under the sun, every channel, every YouTube channel that's covering stimulus are talking about, this is what you're going to get, this is when you're going to get it. Here's the reality for the third time, umpteenth time. None of this actually exists yet. McConnell and Pelosi and others in the Senate are so far apart in agreement on a stimulus bill that it's unknown if it will ever see the light of day. However, when both sides are that far apart on something, it most likely does not happen. And fundamentally, from a financial standpoint, let me know what you think about whether or not the economy can recover on its own without the stimulus. Given financial principles, given the free market society we live in, I absolutely fundamentally believe that the people will find a way to survive. Industries will develop, others will survive the pandemic, things will evolve, and continue as normal. The economy will recover. I believe fundamentally it will recover with or without the stimulus packages. I realize from an emotional standpoint, getting that money would be a huge boon. I get it, and would I love to have an extra $1,200 in my pocket? No question about it. No doubt in my mind, okay? It would be wonderful to get that. However, I always say, plan for the worst, hope for the best. We can hope some package gets passed and we get these checks, but we have to continue normal operating procedure in our daily lives without the expectation of getting this money, so that we are not banking on something that never actually materializes. Should something come up, I'll be happy to do a video on it and share with you about it. In the meantime, this is the deal with the HEALS Act, HEROES Act, and the second stimulus. Please leave your comments section below. I'd love to hear all about it. And until next time, thank you for watching. If you just happen to be coming across this channel on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. It greatly helps us out. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful week, and thank you for watching.